Wait for it, and we're live. Hey, all you crazy sci-fi and fantasy fans. It's time for your daily dose of shenanigans over here at the Blasters and Blades podcast. Ooh, almost stumbled on the, oh man, I couldn't save it. Just a couple of nerdy veterans and one chaos coordinator geeking out over our science fiction passions and fantastical fantasies. A place where magic is king, the sky is the limit, and space is the place. We are the podcast that puts the fun in dysfunction. So without further ado, we are going to let our guests introduce themselves for the listeners and viewers at home. And because we use the alphabet as according to the guru of Word document, we're going to let Mr. James L. Young go first.
My name is James Young. I would say it's just James Young. If you put the L in there, weird things happen. You start to end up with the gynecologist, the architect, or the other African-American historian. The list goes on. Also, more recently, the lawyer in Ohio. Yes, I assure you, there are many of us. We are legion, and someday we will take over that small town. But I'm actually alternate history author as well as sci-fi. I have my alternate history series is a Usurper's War, and my sci-fi series, as you can see from my background, is the Vergassi Chronicles, which there's 2 novels in it right now. There's a base novel and proof of concept, as well as Aries Red Sky. And then the story I have for our anthology, Giant Freakin Robots, which is why we're here today, is actually the first Vergassi stuff I've done in about 4 years. So with that, I'll turn it over to Courtney.
So first, I will say you're the only James Young historian in our hearts and minds. You're the cool one.
Well, I mean, I don't want to cast aspersions on the other James Young.
But he wasn't a soldier, so he doesn't count. He's an imposter.
You don't know that.
Well, this is true.
I met him. He is 21 years older than me. The only reason I know he exists is Goodreads got our files mixed. So I was doing an event for the local library, and librarian Miranda comes up to me and she's like, "You're well preserved." Going on like,
"Thank you."
Okay. Several years ago, she's like, "Well, I mean, you were born in 54, and I'm like, "No, that would have made my mother 3 when she had me. There's some mistake." And so that's when I found out about the other James Young.
You're well preserved. Not the pickup line you want from the ladies.
Well, no. I mean, it was very much one of those cases that I think that would have made me at the time like 60, and I was like in my 30s, so she was not wrong.
So when ladies say that stuff to you, the trick is to not, while your wife is standing there, stretch and go, still got it. That is the wrong answer. I did that once. I'm just telling you, don't do that.
That would be ill-advised.
So, how long did it take them to revive you when they gave you the CPR?
I mean, I'm not saying that all of my head injuries came from that, but I'm just saying we blamed a lot on the war that maybe wasn't.
Might as well. I blame the stroke war.
Yeah. So this is one of those incidents where you get not just the full name, but it's like it would behoove you, and you get the hand waving into your face. It's one of those incidents. I mean, even my mom didn't wave her fingers at me. It was bad. I'm just saying, don't do that. All right.
There's a Nicholas Garber that I guess is a famous economist in Philadelphia, and I was like, because I Googled myself because I'm that guy, and then the dude is like, I get 25, 30 years older than me and black. And I'm like, that explains so much about my family. We just spread everywhere and indoctrinating everybody. And I'm like, so I hit him up. I'm like, hey, from one Nick Garber to the other, how you doing?
I mean, of course you Google yourself. I mean, that's how you find out about the warrants. But
and they won't let me look myself up at work. But if I look up the other Nick Garber, I can see what comes up.
No kidding. I mean, I don't want to turn this into the lore of the many James Youngs, but there are 6 of us here in Topeka. One of us was wanted. Like, no kidding. I get this phone call from this message from my wife. She's like, "Hey, just want to know, where are you right now?" And I'm like, "I'm at work." And she's like, "Okay, I just want to make sure." Apparently, this James Young, he had a couple of warrants, had gotten so mad at a clerk, he climbed up, like it was a gas station, they had the like bulletproof thing. He climbed up in the ceiling, across the ceiling, and dropped down into the bulletproof shack with her.
Huh.
There's a movie about that.
That's a
Falling
trick.
Down.
Those things do not hold up very well.
Yeah, it usually
Now that
doesn't
she
show up on the
knows.
bingo card.
Yeah.
So the first thing I said, because I am not a small man, was, do you really think I would survive climbing up in the ceiling? I mean, that's not going to end well. Second of all, how mad do I have to be to, like, don't get me wrong, I can't go fire and brimstone mode, but how mad do I have to be at somebody to climb into a bulletproof shack with them when I find out they're secretly masquerading as a kung fu expert, and I just get I'm the guy who's sitting here in the hospital, got his ass kicked by like the 5'2", 130-pound, like, gas station clerk who was like,
Jet Li just goes off on you.
Yeah. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
So
All we're
like
trying to
fight
do
or
is
flight.
fill up
There's
pump
no
number
room to
7.
change the clock.
I'm just saying the Joshes are cooler than the Nick Garbers and the James Young, because the Josh, they all met together for the fight, the giant Josh fight, and whoever won got to keep the name. And some like 6-year-old boy, they let him win. Maybe he was just a badass kung fu master at 6. I don't know.
We tried to get the giant Nick going, but there wasn't enough of us. Apparently,
There's enough James
a
Youngs
quota.
that they could do the fight, but unfortunately, apparently one of them's a hardened criminal, and so it's kind of unfair.
And the other one's like,
I want to team up with Nick Garber, economist, who teaches at the University of wherever. We're just back to back. The Airborne Ranger and the economist just throwing fisticuffs with the Joshes. I think that'd be hilarious.
So next, and we've got Miss Courtney. And since she didn't put her last name on there, we're just going to call her Courtney. But fine. Are there a lot of you?
There are not. I'm the only one of my name that I am aware of.
She's Courtney, first of a name.
Yep.
Lord of the Racketeers. Lady
it's
of the Racketeers.
There are people who've tried. They've imitated. They put a U or a Y in their name. That's wrong, and the C's are just right out. So I am the only one of my name. I'm Courtney Bryant's. I'm the chief editor-in-chief for Raconteur Press. I write sci-fi romance under C.V. Walter, which is why I do all my editing under Raconteur, under my actual real name, Wrangler of Raccoons. Actually, I am the herder of cats. That is the official name on my my business card. Is
my dog's herder. The Wrangler of Raccoons. I mean,
anybody
Lady
who has
Merrill,
managed
first name Wrangler of Raccoons.
Anyone who has ever managed an anthology knows what you mean by when they say herding cats. Like I've done that. Like, please, can you just give me your bio? I really just want to help sell your other stuff. It's not asking too much, I promise.
Like I need you to sign the contract. Yes, I'm so glad you're excited. I'm so glad you got all this set up. I'm so glad you're telling people you're in it. Sign the damn contract. Sign it and send it. Like, can we just yeah.
So what I'm hearing is that as a publisher, doing contracts with outside talent is always the same thing. Whether you're in novels or whether you're in comic books, sign the contract so we can get going, please, for the love of everything holy. Just
please tell me how I can pay you. I would like to give you money. Please let me do this.
Why do you hate money so much, guy in Brazil?
I will make this generous offer to you, Courtney. If anyone ever doesn't want to sign the contract and you need someone to pay their share to, I will happily receive it because I'm generous.
I'm with JR. I'll do the cover.
We've actually told people that if they don't claim their funds and don't let us pay them, we're going to donate to the Blanket Fort, and we'll buy more coffee and possibly more cheese for our interns. So our interns get paid cheese sandwiches.
Did you say
they don't even get like bologna? They're bologna sandwich.
No, just cheese. Cheese. Yeah, bologna is too much. They get cheese. If they're really good, they get mayo. So
I love cheese.
What kind of cheese? Are we talking Havarti here, or?
It depends on what we're feeling that week and how the income's coming in. Because sometimes it's craft slices, and sometimes it's like hard cheddar. So it really depends.
I'm not mad at any of those options. I'll sign for a cheese plate. Make a little charcuterie board.
Oh right, that's my favorite thing.
So I got New Year's before stroke.
I thought Hillbilly over at Three Ravens was running us hard, but I mean, at least he lets us smell his mead. He doesn't give us cheese sandwiches, but we could like drunk by proxy.
I don't know, man.
I-
If Hillbilly starts offering cheese plates, though, I'm definitely in for 3 Ravens.
we
I'll
have
work for
the-
free.
So we have the bar. We have the North Texas Troublemakers bar, which we take six. We've been trying to get rid of it. We'll take 6 bottles to a party and come home with 12 that are different from the original 6. People bring them and drop them in our room.
I mean, I will give you my address. You just mail it all to me. We're good. It's going in one package.
All right, that works. We're up to 2 of the really big coolers now. So
I
it's.
I would
ridiculous.
happily take that off your hands. Nick and I will just drink in your honor. There we go.
Absolutely, by all means, I will.
Deal.
I'm happy to send you home with a bottle.
All right. So the next part of the introduction, dear listeners, how we first found this hearty crew of cheeseheads. And no, they are not from Wisconsin. They just like the cheese. I don't know why you talk like that when you say cheese in Wisconsin. Same sentence. It's like you're being possessed.
It's all about the cheese, don't you know?
So I actually found James through Chris Kennedy Publishing when he was doing an alt history anthology with them, and we just stayed in touch. So when this one was coming out, he said, "Hey, I'm coming back on your show," and I'm like, "Yes, sir." And so here we are.
That's usually how it plays out.
I mean, we're
Come
all
on your
I
show.
love short content.
Yeah, sure.
So
How's this date work for you? You good with that? All right, cool. Yeah. All right.
we
You're on.
I grew up, for those of you who don't know, like my sisters were into the Girl Scouts and I was too young for Boy Scouts at the time. So I got to follow along on all the Girl Scout camping trips. They have the official name. They call you tag-alongs, like their cookie. They didn't share their cookie, by the way, rude. And so I grew up reading short stories from the Reader's Digest version. So I absolutely love highlighting anthologies.
Are the tag-alongs the one with the coconut?
They're the peanut butter wrapped in chocolate. I'm a recovering fatty. I know this stuff.
I'm sorry, man. I don't want to. Everybody likes their fix, and you got your dealer. I get it.
So, all right. So now that we've got the introduction out of the way, we get to ask them the religion questions, and we're adding a new one this week. Madam Stabby insisted, and she had the knife, so she wins. All right. So we're going to go with you, Courtney, first. Star Wars, Star Trek, or Firefly?
Firefly, all the way, baby. A brown coat's forever.
Answer. All right, James, you can lose this one.
Look, I mean, this is much like a certain Maru, just chock full of bad choices, because my answer would change based on when you're asking. But I guess I'm gonna have to go with Star Wars.
Okay.
Not just because there's the Imperial flag in the back. At the end, no, Madam Stabby, you don't understand. Everybody, like my close friends, they have the Imperial March as my ringtone. I've been known to say Tarkin did nothing wrong. If Alderaan didn't want to be rebel, Alderaan shouldn't have rebelled.
I mean, the Jedi were a terrorist organization. Come at me, bro.
Didn't have kids.
Yeah.
You're not wrong.
If you could leave, I mean, how much better off is the universe if the Jedi, order just has here, fill out this form, fill out this form, fill out this form. Okay, you can keep your lightsaber, go back to banging your hot senator wife. Good luck on the kids. How much better off would we be? How many more millions of people are still alive if you don't basically have Anakin Skywalker taking a vow of celibacy, unable to sleep with his wife, fully able to be convinced by some Palpatine creepy dude that I can save your wife. He just signs out some paperwork and he goes on as a former Jedi.
Yeah, I think you're right, and that checks out. But the Rebel Alliance did give us Porkins. Just saying. The most misunderstood.
You got extra rats.
So
I mean,
anyway,
my man died for the Republic.
Did I mean, one recovering fatty to another. Porkins is a hero, man. He's a legend among men.
How many bags of Cheetos do you think he had in the cockpit?
Well, I mean, are we talking space Cheetos?
Donut.
Are we talking space Cheetos where they dehydrate them, or modern Cheetos that are puffy?
I think he had the big thing of cheesy poofs.
Ooh. Oh yeah, Ewok puffs. That's what I call
right?
Ewok puffs.
Courtney, you need to come back.
Wait, we don't want to go there.
Maybe Jawa puffs, so you could like when you're eating, you're like Utini.
Maybe. All right. And because we are not heathens, you get the next one. Are you ready for round 2? No pressure. But because we are polytheistic, Game of Thrones, The Wheel of Time, or Chronicles of Narnia?
Narnia.
Excellent answer. James?
I'd like to punt.
All right, so what would you recommend in its place? You can substitute in. Phone a friend.
Super option Delta.
I mean, here's the problem. I mean, Chronicles of Narnia. Okay. I mean, I am past the age of consent, so that's gone. Game of Thrones. Call me when it's finished, and then we'll talk. Wheel of Time. I'm sorry. Do I look like I have the time to read like 20 gazillion books? No, I do not. So,
James, I'm pretty sure you're a Garber as well. I think we're definitely kinfolk at some point if we go down.
So, what is your fantasy novel of choice?
So I would go with Game of Thrones, but season 7 and season 8 happened. So
the man is not wrong.
If you're gonna substitute on the list, what would you pick outside of that list?
Do I have to stay with fantasy?
Yeah, it's got. I mean, that's the whole point. Blasters and blades,
or sci-fi.
I'm about to say, if you're gonna give me sci-fi, I mean, okay, we're gonna start with the Robotech series with Jack McKinney, but if you're making me pick something fantasy, I literally have a spaceship as my background.
Okay, that's fair. We actually have a Robotech episode planned where
that's on us. That's on us. Yeah. We left that open for that.
Yeah. No one's ever asked to substitute for the fantasy list with another sci-fi title before.
I'm literally wearing the Macross Skulls hockey shirt. I mean, you know, I'm just saying, when you got the Robotech symbol, exactly.
All right, when
the only reason I don't have the Rick jersey is because they discontinued it. I was going to get the Rick jersey, and then I think Harmony Gold, that's when they were going through the whole rights problem. And the website I bought this off of no longer had the Hunter jersey.
Hunter's cousin was a little weird.
Yeah, we'll reach out when we schedule that Robotech episode so you can get nerdy with us.
Oh, God.
I don't know if we're ready for that much awesome in one panel, though.
I was about to say, I mean, I don't think you guys quite understand. Usually, like when I do cons, so 3-day cons, Robotech is one of the 3 days. I mean, it's like a given. You know, I have so many Robotech t-shirts, it's not even funny. So,
I mean, a man's got to have his priorities. I can support that. All right, so we're adding a new religion question, dear listener at home. Never been asked before. We're breaking it in with these two lovely guests. But, Courtney, what is your favorite dinosaur?
See, that's a really hard one because I am a dinosaur kid. I have to go with the Utah Raptor, not the Velociraptor. Okay. Utah Raptors are bigger. Because in the movie, the Jurassic Park movie, the Velociraptors that they had guessed are actually like a third of that size. But the size that they have in the movie is a Utah Raptor. So that's the one I'm going to go with.
See, I didn't even know that.
Honey, it does. Size matters.
I'm just trying to be enough, but yes, apparently size matters. All right, so that's a good answer. James?
Favorite dinosaur? I mean, so it's a tie. We got the Triceratops for obvious stabby reasons. I mean, nothing like, you know, oh, you're going to bite me? Well, it's about time to stab the bitch in his belly. Oh, I'm sorry. You're going to go find yourself a brontosaur? That's what I fucking thought. Put your intestines in and leave me the hell alone. I'm going back to my brains. Option B is the stegosaur. Oh, wait.
I got like 90 pre-made banners. You're good.
I'm sorry. You guys really should warn me, like, if we're doing kid-friendly versus I can do kid-friendly. I mean, there are people who will testify, like, I call them my character witnesses when I finally snap. There are people who will testify, like, oh, no, James, you would never say an untoward word about someone. I just don't understand that. Why would you say that? There are people who are like...
James, I'm over here like, fuck them kids. They should be listening to the show.
And you say he super glued the doors of the orphanage shut before he grabbed the Molotovs. Okay.
I think the second time I met you, we were making jokes about eating babies. So I mean, like that's.
Yeah, I mean,
The other
who
white
hasn't made
meat.
that joke before? Come on. Who among you, dear listener, hasn't made those
I
jokes?
will not cast that stone, man. I've said it myself. Like I
who
said,
didn't?
F them kids.
Young PFC Handley and young PFC Garber remembers napalm sticks to kids. That old running cadence. I'm just saying.
Stick the kids. There was a running cadence to it. It was enjoyable.
Exactly. No, there's no kidding. There is a running cadence to that. Also aware of it. They basically about the second year I was at school, they nixed that. They're like, oh, yeah, Dad, stop, politically correct, stop.
Someone forgot to pass that. Someone forgot to pass that down, Nick. Someone forgot to pass that down to the John Wayne School for Wayward Children, otherwise known as Fort Benning Infantry School, because we still did that in '98.
No, this will be about the same time. Look, okay, let's be honest. Someone probably tried to pass that down to Fort Benning, and they just so Fort Benning Sergeant Major just looked at him. Okay, look, could you just agree not to do it when he press or present?
That sounds about right.
All right. I won't do it when you press or present. But you understand we're training killers here. I mean, we gotta let the people know.
I mean, we learned the hard way that blood makes the grass grow, so it's just kind of what we got to do.
Blood, the Benomese blood. Yes, absolutely.
So, all right. So we've got our favorite dinosaur, and now we've got the.
Well, there was a tie.
Oh, there's a tie. Okay.
Number I got distracted by your stegosaur. So A is Triceratops, B is stegosaur for no other reason than the Thaginator.
Oh, yep. The Far Side comics.
Mm-hmm.
I love me some Far Side, and I nearly bought the T-shirt the other day. That's has the stegosaur kind of giving you the we about to go look, saying you're talking a lot of trash for someone who's arranged as a Thaginator.
So for those that don't know,
I was to be asked that question, the stegosaur is my favorite because he's got a baseball bat tail that's spiked like he's kneeling.
Well, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Like, he's my favorite.
So my list is the Triceratops and the Stegosaurus tied as well. And I didn't know you were going to say that, James. So I totally feel you. The F around and find out approach to life, I can appreciate that. But
that's my second favorite, JR.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, that tail piece did not have a name, so they made it up for the Far Side comics, and I guess the paleontology.
Yeah, the guy that named it.
The paleontological community, if I can pronounce that word right, we're like, okay, that's its official name now.
It works.
And it's so funny how many names that are like that's the scientific name for things is because of weird stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Like the artist or writer from it's crazy.
It's not quite up there with Bodie McBoatface, but it's getting close. Is Stabby there to answer the favorite dinosaurs? She has not answered that yet, and she deserves her chance.
She's serving me my alcoholic beverage because I'm an adult.
All right, so we could do that when we get back.
She's sitting down. Give her less than a second. There we go. Hold on, let me mute myself. So,
Stabby, favorite dinosaur?
You're going to say Utah Raptor. I didn't know why you're...
No, I love the Raptors. I do. I love the Raptors. I love the Stegosaurus. We were just discussing this in the truck yesterday. I was like, I love the Stegosaurus because he's like, if the T-Rex and the Stegosaurus had a baby in a radioactive facility, you'd have Godzilla.
Oh, are we going to speak the Holy Church of Gojira here?
All I'm saying is
we are a fellow traveler. My sister and the kaiju. we are in the right place. I mean, I'm not saying I'm a Godzilla fan, but I am saying that my wife one time joked with someone, if it was her or Godzilla, she is losing the fight. It was like he could leave me or never watch Godzilla again. I'm getting divorce paperwork.
I can respect that.
I drove an hour and some change to finally see Godzilla -1 in the theaters because I was like, everybody was like, James, you have to see it in the theaters. I'm like, no, I'll get you on video. They're like, You will hate yourself if you
that
do
is
not watch this movie in the theaters.
That is a theater movie, and it was amazing.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Have you seen Monarch?
No. So I'm behind on the U.S. Godzillas.
Okay.
Like I'm so far behind. Like I gotta go back and see Godzilla versus Kong. That's how far behind I am. Again, there are so many hours in a day, and I have a 7 days to die, as well as other online game addiction with my wife. So.
And you've been editing an anthology for some reason. I don't know what's up with
We're
that.
going to get to that.
Anthology.
We learned two things in the introduction. One, we like you, James, and you get to come back. And two, apparently we're doing kaiju now. It's going on the list because it wasn't before for some reason. Nick failed me. It was not on our list.
No, I mentioned kaiju before. You didn't listen.
So
now you're starting to sound like my wife. You just never listen. And I'm like, if you wanted to be here, you could have asked for one.
I mean, if one of your best friends says it, and your wife says it, maybe the problem is you.
James, come on. You don't have to side with Nick just because he was an officer too.
So, my favorite dinosaur.
Just train back on the rails outside of Godzilla's jaws.
I love dinosaurs, but I have to say, I'm like an old school Jurassic Park dinosaur fan, and nothing can beat the T-Rex chasing Ian Malcolm.
Yes.
Because life just finds a way.
Mm-hmm.
I am a T-Rex person in the deepest part of my heart, even when they look derpy, you know.
So
I'll have JR put a picture up during the after show and show you guys the derpy dinosaurs. You'll understand that joke a little bit.
So now that we've got that out of the way, we've got the last religion question, and then we're going to let you tell us about the anthology that gathered us here. And we've just created new episodes planned, and it's all James's fault, and he doesn't even feel a little bit ashamed. I can see it in his face.
Oh, I'm being blamed for something. This is a unique feeling.
All right,
I'm in the room. I'm shocked.
It's almost like, I walk into rooms and chaos happens. It's nice when it's actually controlled rather than when it really just happens.
All right, so coffee or tea, and how do you take it?
Me or Courtney?
We're gonna go Courtney because ladies first, and I'm a freaking gentleman.
Well, thank you, sir. I take my coffee first thing in the morning in bed.
I need to learn that trick.
I prefer them blonde enough to date, but sweet enough to kiss.
Oh, that is classic. You should put that on a tee and make that a thing.
It's classy, sexy, low-key sexual.
I can see that she writes romance novels now. I'm convinced.
Oh, you have not seen Courtney Unhinged. Play Cards Against Humanity with her in a room sometime.
With me and my son. That was fun.
So, yeah, no kidding. There we are playing Cards Against Humanity. I'm like, okay, so this might get a little crazy. Is he old enough to play? And she's all like, oh, no, he'll be good. He'll be good. 30 seconds later, I'm like, okay.
My kid, he needed to learn. He was being sassy.
You got to learn.
He got an education.
Oh, he did. Yeah, that was a...
When you're making yo mama jokes at the 14-year-old and his mom sitting right next to him, he turns just beautiful shades of red. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah,
I played Call of Duty with my stepson, and he was getting sassy because he's a 14-year-old kid in this age, so he's waxing the floor with me, right? And my brain went back to old school when I first started playing Call of Duty. I'm like, dude, if you don't shut the F up, I'm going to marry your mom and I'm going to give her a son she actually loves. In fact, I'm going to go do it right now while we're waiting for the game to load.
That sounds like the beginning of an origin story for a villain. I'm just saying.
I'm trying because right now he thinks at henchman level. He's like the world's worst henchman. So I'm trying to push him towards Lex Luthor level.
So, I mean, you're just pushing him for excellence. I'm
just driving him to be the best he can be, since his default settings default we'll work with that, and we'll push him to greatness. Maybe he'll be a CEO someday.
You're like, if you've already got the evil alignment.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
But he has to go through the trusted lieutenant first, and then get his own origin story. Like he has to go up the ranks.
yeah. I was an Army captain. That's mid-level management for criminology. If applied
Adding
wrongly.
the henchman episode to the list. My list is getting long. Never fear, dear listener. We've got enough ideas for episodes to last us to like season 12.
You were starting to complain. We hey, we need ideas for content, and here we are. Then you get a couple of bubblies in us, and next thing you know, you have a list.
The only thing that is in this bottle is water. I do not drink in public. There's a reason for that.
I pumpkin.
I didn't want to drink in public. I wanted to drink in the bar. They kicked me into the pub.
No, so
Blame
honestly, the serious reason is it's a lot easier to solve the problem with the police when they show up. When you say, I'm the only person here whose blood alcohol content is 0, so I'll be happy to do a witness statement.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so you're saying that you really didn't walk across the ceiling and stab this man 5 times? No, he's drunk. Why would you believe him? Is there video camera footage?
Well, I mean, I'm trying to teach the boy about Occam's razor. We just explained that. That makes sense. That is the simplest answer. Why would a sober person do that? And the simplest answer is usually the correct one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Person with a blood alcohol 0.10 does not get listened to, even if he goes to the hospital. It's that
I
simple.
know. I've been that guy. They didn't believe shit.
You know, if I had stayed sober more, I wouldn't have been a corporal 3 times. And what stories would I tell? I'm just saying.
See, now you're making me feel like an overachiever because I was only a corporal twice.
So,
Well, I messed up so bad the 3rd time they promoted me.
I had a gunner in one of my platoons, and Molnar, if you're watching this, still one of the best gunners I ever had. He had been a staff sergeant twice, and as he said, he was, this is back in the 90s. His plan was to hit the rank control point, get separation pay, and move out smartly. The reason being that, as he said to me, he's like, sir, I'll do whatever on the tank, whatever else. I just don't want to become an NCO. I become an NCO, it starts getting me the pressure, I start drinking, and that's when I started throwing battalion commanders from cubicle walls. True story, that's what happened the second time.
So if you ever want to see a private eat the most meticulous way, all you have to do is invite them to a fancy restaurant the night before a wedding where the groom is a captain and the best man is a sergeant major. My little brother was a private. I was the most protected bride in Las Vegas. Because my captain to be husband and his best man, who's a sergeant major, and his wife, who's the CEO at San Quentin, we're all sitting at this beautiful table. We're all sitting there eating, and I was like, do you want a beer, bro? And he's like, no, thank you.
So,
like,
you know, if I had minded
my brother.
if I had minded my P's and Q's, I might have made staff sergeant. I'm just saying. But all right, so James, I don't know if you answered because we got so distracted laughing about all the shenanigans we got up to in our younger days. Coffee or tea, and how do you take it?
I take my coffee with creamer, and usually, like, I have those bottles of coffee syrup. I'll take like a little coffee syrup in it.
Okay.
So yeah, I freely admit, you know, I am not a coffee snob, but I do like different brands of coffee. So
if you ask me how I take my coffee, Stabby, seriously, I take it very seriously. That's how I take my coffee.
You should.
No, you don't.
We actually have an affiliate sponsor with Coffee Brand Coffee, made and roasted in America, and it's good stuff. So that's why we added that question. But we were really most recovering alcoholics become coffee fanatics. It's just the transition of life. So we were coffee snobs from way back. But although I don't know if the officers ever had to do the Folgers dip.
Well, put the Folgers in your yes.
Okay.
So with that being said, so it's like me, like I said, I don't drink in public. So the other reason is you see the crazy sober. I am scared of what will come out of my mouth like totally smashed.
That's a valid
That's the
concern.
weird thing, James. Like, I'm like you. Like, you'll see the crazy sober. It's the alcoholic beverages that kind of put a lid on me and kind of set that limit. I'm weird. I know. As a grunt, usually the drunk makes the crazy crazier. You know.
No,
But not for me.
the closest I've ever come to being hammered, I was maybe only like a little bit tipsy. My in-laws, we were down visiting my wife's uncle. And his wife at the time was making the screwdrivers, and she was making them heavy. And I kind of realized it about 3 in, because I was looking at, shall we say, friendly.
What do you mean this isn't orange juice?
And my wife and I were newlyweds, so that
You got friendly.
I started
Love
to get
is
friendly.
beautiful. That's all I'm going to say. Love is
I
beautiful.
started to get friendly and realized what my brain was telling me to do, and I was like, "Whoa, hold up!"
What's the other sounder? Hold up. Wait a minute.
So, full disclosure, and the reason why I was conscious of that is it was my dad's. Let's see, I was in high school, so it was probably his 53rd, sorry, birthday. We went to a Japanese restaurant because my dad was stationed in Japan for his first duty assignment in the Air Force. And no kidding, there was a couple at the end, and the husband was drinking. He was drinking the Weiss wine. And everybody who's ever been to an Asian country like Korea or Japan, you know where this is going. So he's drinking the sake, and he has no idea what's about to happen to him.
Hilarity. That's what
He is.
I tried sake.
What's that?
So the first time I tried sake, I ended up the next morning in a gutter with no recollection of anything that came afterwards.
Right. Soju. And his wife was not drinking.
Poor
Don't
woman.
get me wrong, his wife was an attractive woman. They seem to be a very loving couple. So loving that when he tried to steal second and successfully still stole second at the table, she looked at us, blushed, said, "I am so sorry. Could we get this to go?"
Which part, madam?
And,
the cook smiled, made them a plate, gave them the plate, and said, "You guys have a nice time." And they walked out of that restaurant, and he grabbed her ass as they were going out the door.
we're not saying that's how the next generation was born, but we're not saying it either.
Look, I'm
Dude,
convinced
you
someday
describe my
I'm
whole marriage.
going to run to a kid who's going to say, "Yeah, my parents said something about me being conceived at a Japanese restaurant." I'm going to be like, "My brother in Cthulhu, I was there."
I consummated that birth. That
My dude,
consummation.
I was just like, "Hey, because my mom is not straight-laced by any means, but she also does believe in a certain set of decorum." And she was like looking at the guy like, "Wow, I can't believe he just totally did that with my wife or his wife." And me and my dad are like,
High-fiving each other when she's not looking. I get it.
"No, we were totally like, can't believe he did that out there." And my dad told me later, he's like, "You have seen what happens with rice wine."
Yeah.
Trust
Usually
me,
you
when I
can conceive in a car.
So
What was that?
You conceive in a car. Too much
Look,
sake, man.
I did not go outside to the parking lot till our meal was done. I'm kind of glad because
You would've been
Thank
traumatized.
Christ.
You gave him a few
Yeah.
minutes. It's always appreciated, I'm sure.
Well, no, I'm
So,
not
Courtney-
admit it out of the parking lot. I really am not.
have you written this scene in a romance novel yet? I'm just asking.
What scene in a romance novel? Getting drunk on sake? Yes.
Yeah. Have you added that? I mean, you can get away with just about
Conceiving
anything.
a child in the back of a car? Probably.
No matter how crazy the scene, you throw in sake, people are like, yeah, I believe it.
I believe it.
Sake or soju. Seriously, sake or soju.
Those
Somebody
rice
who's
wines,
stationed
man.
in Korea can tell you soju. Kettles.
I'm a fan of
It's
both.
all bad.
but yeah. Yeah.
Or that absence, if you try that, although that's not necessarily a Asian thing. That's just a can't get it in the U.S. thing.
Mhm.
I got it in Ukraine.
I honestly
Everything.
would say the rice wine is worse. And
You
don't
think?
get me wrong, I know absinthe is like basically the original mind bleach, but it's the sneaking up on you thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, I
Like
believe
so
you.
many soju horror stories where like people are like, I'm fine. This doesn't seem like it's affecting me at all. Everything else. And then 30 minutes later, they're like, I don't even know my own name or wear my clothes.
I was 21 and I thought, oh, this doesn't so bad. And it was warm too. So it's kind of soothing when you drink it warm. And then I'm like, let me go to beer and hard liquor after that. No, don't do it.
No,
Don't.
never mix
It's warm.
those.
Terrible
That's
idea.
so bad.
So, speaking of terrible ideas, we're going to talk about giant stompy robots in the anthology. It was sponsored by, this episode was sponsored by Reconnoiter Press. I probably am butchering the pronunciation. It's French, don't you know?
It's also the name
let's-
of a band, which is also really good.
Mhm.
Okay. So, what was the,
Jack
obviously,
Stripes band, his project band.
we all know like the idea that stompy robots have been around as an idea. Giant freaking robots is the name of the anthology. Nick, can you throw that cover up?
Yeah. Hold on.
But we obviously giant freaking robots have been around forever and a day. But what was the motivating factor to turn it into a badass anthology with that super cool cover?
The motivating factor was I zigged when I should have zagged at a con.
He sat still next to me in Jonna.
Yeah. No, seriously. So we were at LibertyCon, which is down in Chattanooga,
Mhm.
and basically I ended up getting recruited. And I was like, oh, well, they're like, yeah, so you like mecha. You want to do a mecha anthology? And I'm like, are you sure? Okay. Yeah, and here we are. One trip to a bar and some chicken strips later, and here we are.
Well, we've been like poking you with stuff like, hey, you want to come write for us? You want to tell us a story, right? You want to work with us on an anthology? And you're like, no, I'm busy, and everything. And then you stood still, and you're like, well, maybe I could. And so yeah, Ladog and Jonna and Rita took you to a bar that I'm still upset I missed. And you had this great idea, and I think it's a wonderful idea, and it's done very well.
I had 3 courses of action. There were 2 alternate history anthologies, and I said, "Oh, just for funsies, we'll do a mecha one."
You know,
I like mech.
And instead of picking one, we said we like all of them. We'll schedule all of them for you.
so James, it sounds like Reconnoiter Press and Three Ravens Press, they go to the same school of coercion. I mean, convincing. I mean, what? Because that sounds about how I got roped into doing anthologies too.
Yes, pretty much. So it was like, oh, so we just need 10 stories, and I was like, oh, we'll just see how many stories we got. Yeah, there's a reason there's a second one coming, and maybe a third, depending on how some things break out.
Some of our authors are asking us for a third, so we'll talk about that later. My schedule is way too busy.
I had to put my foot down and say, look, guys, 4, and let's be honest, this could easily turn into 6 because we still have the 2 alternate history anthologies coming.
Mhm.
Because as things normally go, we'll get more stories than we have slots, and we'll just end up with another one for that one, and one up for another one for the other anthology. I already see this is coming.
Mhm.
So again, mecha fan. So it's funny that we were mentioning kaiju because my mecha story is King of the Kaiju, which is the kaiju class mecha out of my Bragasi universe from my first novel. And the reason why it's kaiju, it was originally in the short story I first did that started the universe. It was Gojira. Well, if anybody here has met Toho, you don't use their stuff without getting very, very clear copyright and everything else. And I'm like, I didn't know that. I'm like, oh, okay. I thought Gojira was an actual Japanese legend. I did not realize it was. Yeah, okay. Let me get out of here before the ninjas show up.
You're fine using kaiju, but you start using Gojira.
Yeah, well, that's exactly why it's kaiju. Is that because it's like kaiju is a Japanese word for the strange monsters, so that's fair game. But Happy Cedar did the cover. Our friend Cedar Sanderson did the cover. So, as you can see, very good cover. I was really impressed when she sent it to me.
Yeah, she when we told her we were doing giant freaking robots and we were going to do mech stories, she may have started communing with the dolphins. Her squeal was quite loud.
Yes, yes. 500-mile radius. Every dolphin was like.
Yep. She was excited, and she did a fantastic job on this cover and the next one. We're very excited to have them.
Is that all traditional art that she's doing? Or?
No, so she does a combination of AI and digital art to make everything how she wants it to be. So that's I've watched the process and I still don't understand how she does it, but it's gorgeous.
Yeah, I have no idea either. I pretty much just I think I've talked about cover art when I was talking about the alternate history like last time, so we all know that young school of cover art. But it's like usually what I do with cover art. But Cedar this one and the next one are both amazing. I'm kind of curious what she's going to do for number 3 at the end up there.
Well, I've seen like this cover.
I've seen some of her drafts.
It's going to be impactful.
Yeah.
The reason I'm on this show and how I earn my bread at the table is because there was an old show on MTV called Beat the Geeks, and I'm the comic book dude. So that's why I'm here to talk about the art. The art is, for those of you who are listening and not seeing what's going on, it's very impactful. It's definitely classic mech. It's got some Jaeger in it going on. The pose is very awesome. It's very dynamic. There's a lot going on with the fiery atmosphere that's going on. It's like if you saw this on a bookshelf, you'd pick it up and at least read a couple of pages while you're in the bookstore. So I do enjoy the art very much. And if we have that second image, I'd like to see that as well, because
we haven't actually released it yet. So but I believe it's in the similar vein. I might be able to pull it up. Let's see.
You do have it. Remember, she's got to split.
Yeah,
it's a glorious cover, and I didn't notice the flames, and I had to get Nick to tell me what it said because being colorblind and all. But the robot alone is worth the price of entry. That on the cover, it's glorious.
Oh yeah, it's a fantastic cover. And one of the things we love with Raconteur Press, we're trying to kind of go back to the age of the pulps with the really exciting and dynamic covers and the red and the orange and the yellow. We've got like the primary colors that are easy to see and pop because a lot of people have gone gray and dark, and we're not
saturated.
Yeah,
undersaturated,
and we don't do that.
I actually like the pulp look that you give. I went similar to that with the Bayonet Books anthologies. I went for the retro look. Some of the modern art, it's just not where it's at. I like some of the older looks. The cover art almost tells its own story.
Yeah.
So I really love this image, and I can't wait to see what else you're doing. And so you did mention that this is part of a string of anthologies. Now, the anthology is managed by James. Is that going to be its own tag or like its own series when you load it up on Amazon, or do you link them all together?
So they're all sorry. All of our the Raconteur Press anthologies are in their own it's in the Raconteur Press series. So people can go on that and you can buy all of our past issues. I have a recommended readings link that has all of our series by the different all of our anthologies by the different series. So James is going to get his own has his own tag in there. I don't know if I've uploaded it anywhere else yet. But it's he's going to get his books are going to get their own look and their own feel, separate from some of the other ones. They're all going to be cohesive, but his are going to be very distinct. Because there's a limited number of ways we can connect them together, and since it is one of the Raconteur Press anthologies, it goes in that series first. So when you click on series links, it takes you to all of our past anthologies. And that clear as mud.
So this is really supposed to be a one-off. This actually, no kidding, was like a throw. I was being facetious when I first said it. because
no, you
usually I'm
can't
known
joke
for
around us. We'll take you seriously.
I've learned that lesson. So the alternate history, I mean, as you mentioned, that's usually where I'm at. So those are, and Cedar's already done the first cover for that, which is going to be a Cav/Armor focused alternate history anthology, and it's gorgeous. It is absolutely gorgeous. It's my profile picture on Facebook, and that's going to be kind of hard to, match up with the giant freaking robots, but I got faith in Courtney. Again, it's not like I haven't done alt history anthologies before. So,
Okay.
Yeah. And the it's hooves, sabers, and tracks. The next one.
yes.
And it's going to have the same raconteur press feel, but it is a completely different color scheme. It is a completely different feel for the cover. They will be very distinct. And I think they'll look good. I have faith in Cedar. She's amazing and just getting better. So
yeah,
Okay.
I mean, just looking at this image alone it's very impactful. So I would just assume that whatever images she produces for the rest of your books are going to be equally as impactful and
So this is going to air first, but
memorable.
we also interviewed another author who had Cedar design his covers as well. So you'll see more of her art floating around this podcast as time goes on, because she started lending her services out far and wide. Anyone who will write the check of the appropriate amount. Hey, no shame, no shame. All right, Stabby, you had a question?
She's busy, and if she can be bribed, there is a cost, but she is very busy, so she can actually be picky, so she can choose what project she works on, and I'm just incredibly lucky that we have her working for us.
Absolutely.
So why don't you guys tell us about the stories and how you picked them?
James, do you want to start, or do you want me to go?
So, as discussed, basically, this is like, I have my own gigs and I have this. And what's funny is I looked up and I'm like, looking at the calendar, I'm like, oh snap, I should probably be reading stories. And so I started reading stories. And I read the first, I got to 13 Keepers. I mean, of course, some folks just need some polishing. I mean, that's pretty much where it's at. There are some things, the thing about being an anthology editor, you got to look, you got to say, okay, where does this story take me in the first couple of pages? Because you only got a certain number of pages. I mean, we have a cap for the story. Where did this story take me, and will it work thematically? Do we have too many stories of the same type? For example, we have a husband and wife team who both submitted stories because I asked them, and they have a matching universe. That being Edie Sky's universe. Totally blanked. Oh, Titan Mage. Sorry, totally blanked on the title there for a second. And they both, it's Jacob Hollow, who's also a Bane author. Edie is the wife's side of the house. They both submitted a story. And they're both, as expected, awesome stories. But that would have been 2 Titan Mage stories. And, that 20% of this is Titan Mage. At that point, we start becoming a Titan Mage anthology. So we had to, knowing that we were going to do the second one, we went ahead and split it. Which is funny because they're both going to have a character between them. It's going to seem that there's a sequence. But for the most part, it was a case of, does the story work? Okay. Do we have like 2 or 3 stories of the same type? No, we do not. All right, we'll go from there. We have a steampunk story in this one. So that's literally, we run the gamut. We got prisoners. We got steampunk. We've got the traditional, we're out here fighting for the universe stories. All of it's in there.
We've got talking animals.
Yeah, I'm about to say we have awakened animals. We have dogs and cats fighting one another with mecha at the state fair. Yeah, that's right. That's in there.
It was fun.
It was hilarious, and it was like one of those things I read. I was like, I can see this anime right now, and that's pretty much. I mean, it's like I said in the intro. anime fan from way back. Also fan Pacific Rim. I guess we've mentioned different things. The soundtrack for the first movie, read the novel, read the pre-novel, which I highly recommend to people. It's when you see the whole Pacific Rim universe, it's like really cool, and just that sort of feel. Thinking about things like that was pretty much where I was going with it. I mean, again, I'm a big fan of Robotech. I know that's a funny way to say us, but that's that definite feel. Was primarily where we were going, but we didn't want to have a broad range.
Right. We didn't want everything to be the same, and I think we got a good mix in this one for what we've received. There's a little something for everything, and nothing is an overlap, which is really hard to do with some of these because a lot of people will focus on the same kind of mech stories.
Yeah.
And I think we have enough because I get the yay or nay if they go in the file first pick. So everything that you read, I at least read the first couple of paragraphs, first couple of pages, and there were some that I'm like, I really like this. I hope he likes it too.
And that's I mean, that's the thing. I didn't even see what Courtney had already slushed. So
yeah,
that's
if they did make it in the folder, it was off and gone before that. So and we generally actually our authors that submit to us are generally pretty good about turning in good stories. We'll get the one off here and there of oh God, why did you do this to me? Who hurt you? And but most
How much time you got?
right? It's like I do not need a list of all of your grievances. Thank you. But most of the time,
Festivus has already passed.
There's a time and a place for that, and it's not right now. But a lot of what we get there, they workshop them all together. We got some new people who I'd never they weren't one of our usual authors who submits a lot, but and I think we got a good mix. I think the next one's going to be the same. And talking to Edie and Jacob, going, okay, so which of these, what's your release schedule like? What is your promotion schedule like? Which one needs to come out first? So I can work with them on their Titan Mage stuff because I am a huge fan of the Titan Mage series. Like I'm I love everything she's done as Edie Sky. I love everything she's done. They've done together. So I was like, we got two of them. I'm like, oh my God.
So what's funny is, as I was ambushed at LibertyCon, I ambushed, Jacob Edie at LibertyCon also, with the intent that I was trying to talk him into the alternate history anthology. And then when everybody, when everybody was like, no, we're really going to do the mecha one, I was like, well, okay, you guys are serious. All right, cool. I know just 2 people asked. So, ironically, tie-in, Jacob and Edie under her actual name, they star in my story. And how that happened was I used to do drawings to buff up my mailing list. Jacob, way back when we all first met, Jacob won the contest to have a destroyer named after him in my Space Navy for God's universe. Now, I subscribe to the theory that you don't get destroyers named after you if you're still breathing. So, a little bit of a spoiler alert. As I like to say, yeah, it's not often that I get to kill another author with his permission and in front of his wife. So, that's how that was the first time where I basically got to break the fourth wall a little bit, and that was good fun finally writing this story because I had written what had happened. Like whenever someone wins a contest, I write up the story of like how you end up to have a destroyer named after you, and I wrote that up. Jacob loved it, and then here we are. Like I think it's 7 years later, I finally get to put it in print. So that was fun. They're Titan Mage stories. Both of them were fun. Though I love the one that's in this one. I really love the second one. Look, that's one thing. The reason I'm looking forward to the next anthology is people will actually get to read that story and it's a great story.
Yeah, it is.
So, Courtney, you mentioned that you go through them first and you decide what even goes in the file.
Mhm.
So, I've edited some of my own anthologies, so I kind of understand the process. But for people who don't at home, what does that look like for you when you go through and pick? And what do you think makes a story pop for you? For authors, or not really authors, because our audience is mostly readers. For readers who are like, hey, how did this one get picked? And what makes it stand out? Like, how would you explain your process of picking to them?
So one of the things that so I guess I should preface this with, I read pretty much every genre out there. There's nothing safe for me. If it stands still and has words on it, I will read it. And so I have a wide variety of taste on a lot of these. So if something comes into the slush email, essentially, I read it, and if I think it has potential, like the first two paragraphs are what I will read. And if the two paragraphs are like, okay, I can see this going somewhere, or it hooks me, then that gets put in the slush pile into the submissions folder. If the first two paragraphs don't catch me at all, I'll send an email back saying, hey, thanks for your submission. Please try again later. And then after that is when we start getting into the nitty gritty on how the stories are going to work and if they work. Because if you can get through the first two paragraphs, then great, you've got through the first two paragraphs, and then you have to go keep me hooked for the rest of the story. So I like things that start with action, or a good character introduction. If you start with your guy shooting somebody, I'm like, I want to read more of that, just to see what happened. But if it's cardboard characters that don't go anywhere, then I'm going to get bored really easily. And that's pretty much the basics of it. Like I can go into, as we get further into the selection process, I'll go deeper into their story structure and into their characterization and how things go. But the first hit is always, what am I'm reading this as a reader. I'm reading this as someone who likes to read these things. And if I get bored halfway through, I'm going to put it down. But then if I'm having a negative reaction to it, there's always a chance that I have a bad attitude about something that's been in it, and I'll have somebody else read it after I'm done with it. Of, hey, is this just me, or is this really a problem? Because there's somebody who made an off-color joke on Facebook that just irritated the crap out of me, and their name was the same name as one of the characters in the book, and I'm like, am I having a bad day, or is this really a problem? And I have, and that's where people like James comes in, or my copy editor. I'll say, hey, can you go read this for me and make sure that I'm not just having a bad attitude? And so they'll double check me on that. But really, like if your hook grabs me, I'm going to read more. If your next two couple of paragraphs keep me engaged, then it goes in the submissions folder to read a little bit more. I don't, for the initial slush read, which I end up reading a lot of these stories 8 or 9 times to go through and decide what I like and where they have issues. But for the initial slush read to actually make it into the submissions folder before they're even considered for the story, they have to grab me on the first couple. And that's I think pretty standard. If you're going to pick,
you're right.
If you pick up a book of short stories and the first book when you open to is really boring, you're going to close it and put it down.
Yeah.
No, you want to start strong,
right?
You got to look at it like a relay race and like track and field. It's like you could have some stories in the middle that just maybe are not as fast, so to speak, but you want your guy off the gate, or a gal, depending on what you're watching, and you want the person who's doing the last leg, the finisher. You want those to be the strongest of stories. And I agree with you 100% when you're talking about like, hey, I need a second set of eyes on this because I don't know, maybe it's just me. I do that in the comics world too. I'll do it with the actual scripts. I'll do it with when I start finally getting artwork, because it's a visual medium, and if the artist is worth his salt or her salt, they should be able. I shouldn't have to be able to put word balloons or captions or anything. You should be able to follow the story just based on the pictures, And then if I give them the script, they're like, "Oh my god, it totally makes sense. It's even better now," And then okay, that's the one I'm rolling with.
Yep.
So it's really
Oh.
fun to see the difference between the novel world and the graphic art world, or the
Mhm.
graphic novel world, and see how much they coincide. It's
Well,
been very fun for me.
telling a
doing
good
this.
story is telling a good story, right? Like
You're absolutely right.
if it's going to be engaging, it has to be engaging no matter what medium you have it in. It's the same as short films. It's the same as long films. Anything that's going to tell a story and engage an audience has to be strong enough to do so. And there are people who get bored and have different tastes, and that's that then they're not your audience. But a story is a story is a story. Storytelling has not changed since the Greeks.
Well, I would say I would add to it, like the formation of like man in like documented history, like when we're all sitting around the hearth. A good story is a good story.
Mm-hmm.
While we're all sitting around the campfire, just trying to pass the time before it's time to go to bed.
Mm-hmm.
I connect our history to that as storytellers.
Absolutely. One of the things that I love about going to cons is I go sit on the smoker's porch with the military guys. I have never served, but that's like my favorite place to be, because they've practiced their no shit stories. The no shit there I was, and then you go into their lies. I'm sorry, the embellishments of what
embellishments.
Yeah, right.
We call they're embellishments, Courtney. Damn it. And I stick my guns on that shit. No shit. There I was wearing a PT belt with a light coat of oil
and nothing else.
So now Nick has got to write the story with the robot. Nick's got to write the story about the robot who lived because he wore his PT belt.
Right.
There
you go.
So he kicked my ass in the chow hall, man. I told you that in confidence.
So I will say that, like, it sounds like, Courtney, your process is much the same as mine. Like I rate them on a 1 to 4 scale. 1, I couldn't put it down. 2 is good. 3 is okay, maybe I'll think about it. And 4, they get the instant reject letter.
I gotta disagree. It has to be a 10 scale because there's nuances there that
there are.
You got to be able to rate the 7, man.
I actually, what irritates. I'm trying to train other people how to do this, and I irritate them because I don't use a scale. I do, and I like it, and because I know that I'm going to be reading through these so many times. Everything has to stand up to a reread. Like there are some stories that I have an English degree. Yes, you all can make fun of me for that's fine. But I have an English degree, and there's some stories that in some places. I have
an art degree, Courtney. I mean, we'll just get
congratulations.
I have a bachelor's in arts and a master in fine arts. I mean, and I don't use either of those in my day-to-day job.
But there's some stories that I read as part of the English canon for my degree, and I read them 24 times because they were in every class. I wrote papers on them 8 or 9 times, and they stood up better the 12th time I read them as they did the first time I read them. And that's really what I'm going for with a lot of our anthologies. Like I don't pretend that we're writing literature. But literature in the English canon as it is stuff that has stood the test of time. Things that have been passed down and redone and shared, and you have to read this book because it's amazing. And I'm sharing this love of this language and this love of this story with you. And bad English teachers can kill the love of that story, but I want our stories that we put out to have that feeling. I love the story, you have to read it. I have to tell you everything about it. So that you don't just read it the once, you want to have a copy of it so that you can read it again and that you can give it to other people to have them read it. Because these are short bites of fiction, but some of them are just amazing. And there's some that I cried reading, and I may have emailed a couple of people at 2:00 in the morning with "How dare you? You made me feel things, damn it!"
Yeah, she's not kidding. There are some where you're like, oh.
Well, you got to look at it. It's like it's almost as good as like comfort food. A lot of these stories, if they're done very well, like Frank Herbert's Dune, I've read at least 14 times.
Yeah, that's one of the ones that I read. I've killed a book on that.
The first time I read it, I was in the Sinai Peninsula looking over a desert on one side and the Gulf of Aqaba on the other. So that story at that time when I want to say I was chosen to read it at those points. Like I don't care what religion you believe in. Like there was a deity involved. Like you're going to read this book at this point in time, and it has stuck with me ever since. It's my comfort food. It's my my grilled cheese sandwich and tomato soup. You know, it's my mashed potatoes and gravy. So like anytime I'm starting to feel like, oh, man, I really need some comfort, I'll pick up Frank Herbert's book. You know, and read that book. And I think a lot of us as readers, because I'm a reader first, I'm a author second, and I think that's probably the way it should be. You know, it should have that same spirituality of being an author. But you want to create that comfort for your reader. You know, when they go through it, that's something that you go, wow, this is something that I will definitely read again, like your favorite television shows. It's, you know, Seinfeld, that's something, or Friends. You know, these are shows that were so into the zeitgeist that we go back to them, especially with our generation. These are things that bring us comfort. They're things that bring us joy. It's something that we know that we're going to have a good time delving back into it.
And a good story creates catharsis and brings you back home and comforts you. Like that's it makes you feel things and then settles you back down. You know, I have some stories where I'm like, I've sent stories back to someone saying your cigarette moment isn't good enough. Rewrite your end, because this is the one where, you know, you're laying down and it's so good, you need that cigarette, and they botched that last 2 paragraphs. I'm like, you know what, you need to make this stronger. Everything else is good, but your ending doesn't clean it up.
So let's circle back to the robots that brought us here, the giant Freakin robots. You get 2 artistes together and they get all literary on you. Like, hey, you should have warned me.
I do that. Sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. But we're here to pimp this anthology.
Am I the third artiste?
Yeah, you and Courtney, apparently you're like simpatico on this. It's weird.
You're gonna make me cry. I just want to. Here's where I make you cry. I read your Sleigh Bells Ring.
Stabbed.
And it's probably gonna be me. I read Sleigh Bells Ring every Christmas now since you wrote it.
Well, thank you. You know what Sleigh Bells Ring didn't have? It didn't have enough giant freaking robots in it. So, speaking of
part 2, baby, I'm writing Jaegers.
So, speaking of the robots, are all of them the POV character? Is it the antagonist? Like, what are we looking at from the collection that you guys picked?
Oh boy! So you got a little bit of everything. I mean, when I say it in the introduction, I'm not kidding. You have a lot of them but I would say most of them are character driven. So you have the pilot of the mecha. Yeah, like the mecha. This doesn't become like basically, you know, Gundam is about Gundam primarily. The mecha are centerpiece. Most of these are indeed like character. Like, okay, these are characters who happen to use their robots as a tool. How that works out for them. And we have a lot of new authors. We have some authors who, people like they usually don't write in this genre, like K.R. Paul. I know her from Twitter, so it's funny. We talk about Giant Freakin Squee. She was so happy to make the cover of the anthology. She just was ecstatic. She had a whole tweet and everything else about it. So they made a mock cover for her. But it was just, it's great having people get that sense of happiness from it. And she did a really good, the question of a soulmate. Are soulmates real? And that was like the basis of her story. She no longer qualifies for Team and More. She's
emeritus Team and More.
Yeah, she's been in a few other anthologies with her professional, and also some To Boldly Go, I think is the anthology she was part of that was relating sci-fi to military stuff. I want to say her story was about Y-Wing, or she talked about Y-Wings at the Battle of Yavin. I'm not sure if I should trust my memory on that one. I see her listening to this interview and be like, oh my God. But no, things like that. It was great to have people come into the fold. She had a rough year. She's been open about this on Twitter and everything else. A lot of stuff that gone on, and this was a morale win for her. It was great being a part of that.
So, and a friend of mine who did not know that she was going to be in that saw her post on Twitter and it's like, "Hey, isn't this your anthology that you're working on?" And I'm like, "Oh my god!" And sent me like her entire Twitter thread on how excited she was to be in it. I'm like, "Yes, people who don't know me know this. This is cool." So, yeah.
So, did you guys have a favorite story in the anthology?
This is like asking a mother if they have a favorite child. I mean, we all know
They
the answer.
do.
They
I
totally
had someone literally tell me, "I don't have a favorite child. I love all three of my children equally." And I'm like, "You are a damn liar." They're like, "How would you call me a liar?" I said, "Okay, you and your kids are in a room. A werewolf jumps in the room and you can only save one of them. That name you thought of, that's your favorite kid." "No, I didn't think of a name. You a damn liar. No, we'll just all go to Jesus together." Okay.
JR's mom picks me every time. JR's mom picks me every
Way to rub it
time.
in. Abby. Way to rub it in.
Well, I mean, JR, why does your mom pick Stabby?
She sends food,
Well,
and
there
apparently
you go.
she's a better cook than me.
There you
There you go.
So none of the stories have cooked for me. So I really, and plus I have one in there. So I mean, you know, the muses will abandon me by choosing anything out of my own story. But I will say they're all rocks. As I'm sitting here, you know, I say that about You a Damn Lie, but I literally do not have another favorite story because I was sitting here trying to work through it, like, oh, maybe it's it. And I'm like, no, but then there's this one, and then there's this one, and then there's this.
Mm-hmm. I can tell you I have a favorite reaction to finding out that they were in the anthology.
Okay, go for it.
So I was at MarsCon when we were sending out all the anthology acceptance, all the contracts, so everybody knows that they were in, and we had to talk to HP and Jacob first, and one of our guys who was he's in the anthology as Spearman Burke, and he was there with us, and this was his second convention ever. And he was basically acting as my bodyguard to make sure that I actually got water and food and like could go to the things I needed to go to and not be stopped in the hallways all the time, because that's become an issue recently. And he's like, "I'm really trying not to ask you if I made it in the anthology. I'm really trying not to ask you if you made it in the anthology." And James hadn't gotten back to me yet on whether or not he'd gotten in the anthology. So I was up there with HP and Jacob, and I because we'd requested some fixes from him. I was up there with HP and Jacob, and they were filling out their contracts. We were talking about the timeline on that, and James messages me with, "Yep, it's in," and I'm like, "Cool." No, so
it wasn't just it's in. It was, you know, I really wish I had read this earlier. Because there was a lot of stuff going on at the same time.
There was a lot of stuff. I totally understand. Like, you were busy, and I'm like I can't tell if he's in or not because I don't know yet. And so I had, in anticipation of him making it, just in case, we printed out an extra contract because normally we do these digitally, but we're doing HP and Jacob's in paper form just so we could have, you know, everything worked out at that time. And so we went and dealt with that. And I went downstairs and started filling stuff out. And he comes and sits down. He goes, "So, how are things going?" I'm like, "You need to sit down for a second." He says, "What?" I'm like, "So you need to sign this and fill this out." And he's like, "Oh, fuck you guys." then he's like, so he goes, "I love you," and I'm like, "I love you too. Now sign the damn paperwork." But that was my absolute favorite reaction to finding out they got in, because it's not often you have a sergeant major go, "Oh, fuck you."
No, that's every day.
Yeah, good one.
Not so civilian, thank you.
Well, in my defense, the perfect answer to the sergeant major is nobody saw anything and you can't prove it. That way you don't have to worry about it. But that's an excellent reaction. And so this anthology, by the time you're listening to this episode, will already be out. So there will be a link in the show notes where you can buy it. We suggest you do. And if you really want to make Courtney cry, she'll film it for you. If you do, just go to the anthology series page and then hit the buy all. What's a couple $100 and 21 books among friends?
It's chump change. It's chump change, bro. Just spend it.
Yeah, she.
You will not
there isn't a bad anthology. They're all good. There isn't a bad one yet. So.
So if you want to buy them in Kindle, it's only $128.78 plus tax. If you want to be a chump and you want to, it doesn't give me a buy all button in print, only in
It
Kindle.
doesn't.
Those jerks.
Yeah,
Is it $128 on Kindle?
We
There's
have
21
21
stories. So.
We have 22
Okay.
anthologies out right now. We'll have 23 out by the time 24 out by the time this.
Y'all been busy.
Yeah, we're
Busy
so
bees.
Raconteur Press is doing 24 and 24. We're doing 24 anthologies in 2024. And with all the extra we've added, we're actually ending up at 29. I'm putting my foot down. We're not doing 30.
But 30
You
is such
guys
a
ain't
nice
getting any
number.
sleep as it is.
So what we're saying is, if there are too many alternate history stories, we're kicking that down to next year.
2025. I've already got my schedule for 2025 is already half built.
You and Jonna have already had this conversation, and
Oh
we're
my
not going to
Lord.
be surprised.
So in the show notes, dear listener, I will link to all the Raconteur Press social medias. Courtney's a little bit of a digital ghost right now, but when I link to them, I'm just saying peer pressure, you might get 30. I'm just saying it's a nice round number, and I'm not managing any of these, so I can say that.
That's true.
So
Your editors are going to cry so hard.
full disclosure, as I have had to remind them a couple times, I do have a day job. I do have my own books that have to come out. So, yeah, don't do that with my own books, because I will walk away.
I know. No, it's very important to us that you finish the rest of your books because I want the next book in your series. Thank you.
Well, that's funny you mentioned that. Don't worry. The next novella in my alternate history series will be out probably by Huntsville, at least in digital form.
So, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So I was going to say, but it is crazy. This is you never realize how many people out there have stories in their head that they're like, well, hey, I'll just throw 10,000. And the thing with me with doing like anthologies is they can attest. I do recruiting. I chase down people. There is a reason why, if you look at the 3 Faces of Mars anthologies, some folks end up in Team and More that are like on the front of the cover for the first one, is because by the time we're down to the third anthology, the third alternate history anthology, we got David Weber, we got some Sterling, we got Sarah Hoyt. I mean, we're like, yeah, I'm on the front because I'm there.
My internet is Starlink.
What's that?
My internet is Starlink. I love it.
So, in all seriousness, that's where we try to put together. You talk about your anchors. You try to put together people that are on the front of the book, and people say, "Oh, I know who that is. Oh, I know who that is." So that's how I try to build the roster. But then you find out, and that's how I just we're going to end up with a lot of anthologies.
Yeah.
The alternate history anthology, everybody's already like, I've got a what if. Having to like kind of control people, like, okay, is it an actual what if, or is it what I wish? There is a difference.
So I could never do alt history because I'm a trained historian. That was what I majored in college. So much like the English majors, I can ask you if you want fries with that. There's
historians, they're dangerous.
It's too much dangerous going down the rabbit hole of research, and then like 3 years later, people are like, "Where'd JR go? Didn't he have a podcast once?"
Oh,
it's just dangerous.
Wait 1 second. You said something about rabbit hole. I will briefly go to none. Do you see all those books behind me? Yeah.
We looked this up. If you have 1,000 books, that qualifies you legally as a library.
Dang.
So
I'm saying you're there. You're there.
Yeah, because that's just what's out. I mean, there's stuff in the shed.
So rather than getting sucked down more rabbit holes where Nick and Courtney get nerdy about all things literary and they start sticking their pinkies up and drinking their tea all funny, we're going to wrap this up. And so, James, other than managing all these anthologies, what are you writing right now?
So right now I'm writing The Victorious Meeting, which is a novella that's set in my Usurper's War alternate history universe. My third novel came out which is against the Tide Imperial, it's already a monster. So it's like, I think it clocks in at 128,000 words. The novella, this is basically a phase of that, like the British aspect of that book. This thing was only going to, I'm only going to make it like, 12,000. Yeah, we're at 26 and counting, so it's probably going to be the same size as the One Moment. The other book that was only going to be 10,000 and actually clocked in at 40, which is
a novel by Hugo Standards.
Yeah, Wonder No More, which was an alternate latte golf that was only supposed to be a short story. It ended up being basically a book. So the Victorious Queen will be the next thing. It shall hopefully be out by April when I go to Huntsville, Alabama for a con. Next con I will be at will be March, which will be Casey Planet Comic Con, and then Huntsville basically a month later.
I have never met a short story that I couldn't envision a 12-book arc coming from, so I feel your pain, sir.
Yeah, the latte golf when I was like, oh, no, I'll do this. No.
The funny thing is when you get readers that'll ask, how do you come up with your ideas? And my question is always, how do you make them stop? I just want to sleep. So
sleep is no safety. Oh, no.
This is also true. So, James, how can they find you on the wild interwebs? And as usual, we link to all that in the show notes.
Okay, so you can find me on Amazon. You can go to my author page. You can also, you'll soon be able to find me on Downpour. You can already find me on Downpour, actually. My sci-fi novel, Freakin Concept, is already there as an audiobook. And then, so which means you can get it from your local library if you want to, and everything else. Then you'll also be able to find the first novel in Usurper's War, which is Acts of War. You'll soon be able to find that. The pre-order link should be up by this Saturday. This is the second audiobook edition, recorded by Audio Award-winning narrator Jennifer Chillaraya. Jennifer also did Aries Red Sky, which is one of my sci-fi books. She's also done Casey Azel's series, her alternate history series. So, yeah, she's good people. And long story short, ended up some things lined up that she's going to do the first 3 books. So that's all 3 books will be available on Downpour as an audiobook. You can get the hard copies of the books through Barnes & Noble. And probably here, hopefully by next year, I'll have a Shopify where I'm also selling the print copies of the books.
Outstanding. And what about you, Courtney? I know your social media, we talked about this in the pre-show, is in flux right now.
Yes.
So rather than give something that won't be valid when we link this everything, what are you writing right now? Because obviously we know what you're editing.
Right. So what I'm writing right now is I'm in the final stages of finishing up. It's called The Alien's Major Dilemma. It's book 7 in my Alien Bride series. And actually right now we're recording this on a Tuesday, so I actually need to go and finish my Taco Tuesday. I actually do every Tuesday. My friends Cedar and I are doing a romance short story for our Substacks. So I need to get that up today. And I'm almost finished with today's. so yeah, Taco Tuesday.
When you talk now, I want tacos and I didn't eat them today. Oh man!
It was originally Taco Tuesdays with tentacles, so I try and put something with tentacles in it.
So when you say alien brides, do you mean the brides are aliens, or the brides are marrying aliens, or either or?
Yes. So okay. the very first one is aliens.
Never mind.
Yes, so many of questions people ask me. The answer can be yes. The very first book is the Alien's Accidental Bride, where aliens come through a wormhole and hit a space station on that's not supposed to be there. I make Jurassic Park jokes, and there's a Jurassic Park joke in every book. So.
Stop flirting with us. That's just not. So
everybody's got a gimmick.
We will definitely have you come back, because we've tried to get romance writers to come on, but they get the sci-fi and speculative fiction. Either they think we're joking with them, or they're embarrassed to put themselves out there and talk where their voice might be recognized for what they write. Luke, I get it. Like, I don't even hide the fact anymore that I got paid to write Yeti stuff for funding my first edits. All right, no shame, people. No shame.
I started in erotica, and I have 200 titles out in erotica. So I'm happy to come and talk about anything you want me to.
So I'm just saying, after Yeti, like, the rest of it feels tame to me. Even tentacles. So, all right. So we will link to all of her social media. We will get it up. Phrasing. We will get it together before the episode goes live. And
you'll come together as it will.
James will be messaging me a year from now. Hey, let's get it up for another interview. I can see it now. The man's got a long memory.
Come together right now.
All right. This is the part of the interview where I remind you, dear listener, to please be kind and speak your mind on the reviewing platforms. Your reviews help the right readers find the right books, and I can almost guarantee you anywhere you can buy it, you can review it. So do your part. It's really appreciated, especially for a new publication, new authors, new presses. All that stuff really helps them communicate what you like, what you don't like, and what they should invest their time and money in. So it really does help. And you help other readers find what they like. Because just because you don't like it, if you write a reason why it didn't work for you, that might be someone else's like, oh yeah, I like that. So you help sell the book. You can find us on our link tree at linktr.ee linktree/Blasters and Blades podcast. Again, linktree/Blasters and Blades podcast, where we link to all the things, the bit shoots, the rumbles, the YouTubes, the Twitters, the email for professional purposes only at Blasters and Blades podcast at gmail.com, or our Facebook group and Facebook page. And more importantly, for anything inappropriate, you can reach Madam Stabby Stab at Instagram, Twitter, or email, linked in the comments section on the link tree. She will make you cry. No shame, though. Nick's cried. We don't judge him for it. That mostly she was stabbing him, but whatever. We don't judge. We have our website at anchor.fm/blasters-tech-and-tech-blades. Again, anchor.fm/blasters-and-blades, where for as little as 99 cents a month, you can help keep the lights on. Every little bit helps. These episodes are not free to produce. There is a little bit of overhead, and so we appreciate your patronage. If you want to support the show more directly, you can follow us over at buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Again, buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Be sure to put in the comment section that it is for the podcast. And I promise I will keep my co-hosts duly caffeinated. They will drink until their eyes turn brown. They'll drink so much coffee. It will be old enough to date and blonde enough to... No, I got it wrong. something callback episode earlier. All right. With that being said, if you're listening to this, when this goes live, there are currently some sales going on over at Coffee Brand Coffee. So check it out. They did a little bit of overstock at the Valentine's Day, and now there's some good stuff on sale, 15% off. And that's on top of the 10% you get from us if you use our code Podcast Grunts. And with that being said, we would like to thank you for spending some of your precious time with us. For my crazy co-hosts, I am J.R. Handley, and this was the Blasters and Blades podcast. We'll be back next week at the same time, where we'll indulge our love of nerd culture, cheesy jokes, sometimes they're even appropriate, and all things that go boom. And I blame James. We were keeping it family friendly, and then he just flipped the switch, and it was off to the races.
You gotta tell me if you want it family friendly.
I mean, I should have known with an armor officer, right? Like, I should have just known. I
want you to run them over with the tank. Hello.
As a fellow soldier, as soon as you play the spade, you got to play your spades. So, anybody that's ever spent time with a bunch of Joes passing time, you've played spades. And the rule is you can't play the spade till someone breaks the spade. And then all spades are loose. So I say, fuck it.
I'm just saying that's a lot like the NSFW push. It's a lot like rugby. If the sir didn't see it, it didn't happen. So I'm just saying we could have slid under the radar, but Nick was like, "Oh no, let's go for deeper fire. Let's pour gas on it."
Oh, I went Kool-Aid Man real quick. Like, oh yeah.
All right, thank you guys for coming. Thank you guys for listening. We've got more panels coming up. It's all James's fault, and we love him for it. And with that, I'm hitting the end button. Boom! Wait for it.